The Torah tells us that when the angels came back, who were his agents, Pasuk Zayin, Vayeshuva Malachim El Yaakov Lemor. The Malachim returned to Yaakov saying, Bonu Elochicha Esav. We came to your brother Esav, meaning you refer to him as your brother. Do you want to know whether he's your brother or not? He's the same Esav. He's the same person who's plotting to kill you. And he's coming towards you, accompanied by 400 men. You always mention Rabbeinu Bachya that we find the number 400, that the numerical value of Ephron with the Vav deleted is 400. And Ephron without the Vav is Ayin Ra, the evil eye, which is 400. When Avram Avinu paid 400 shekel kesef for the Moris Machpelah, when he saw the amount of money that Avram had, although originally said, considered a gift, but because of Ephron's evil eye, he asked for an enormous amount of money. So Ephron is deleted that moment. That was an expression of his Ayin Ra. That Esav is coming against Yaakov with 400 men, again, it's to convey this concept that Esav had Ayin Ra. That was his level of opposition to Yaakov. That's Ayin Ra, it's 400 men. There's a question in the Midrash, was he coming with 400 men? Or each of these 400 was a general, and they had thousands of troops. They were leading thousands of troops in battle against Yaakov Avinu. Was it 400 themselves, or was 400 representatives, leaders of other troops coming? But nevertheless, it's 400. So Yaakov understood this is all-out war. Vayiro Yaakov Ma'od. Yaakov was very afraid. It doesn't say Vayiro Yaakov. Ma'od. The Ma'od means very. He was like terrified. Vayetzelo, and he was pained. What do you mean he was pained? Of course, if a person's terrified, you're pained. So Rashi himself explains, Vayiro Shema Yehoreg. He was afraid he may be killed. Because we'll see in a moment, even though God gave him a guarantee that he'd watch over and protect him from Esav, but he was concerned, as Chazal tell us, Shema Yigro Machet, that because God had done so much for him, he had gone, when he had left, he only had his walking stick when he crossed the Yarden. And now he's coming back with tremendous wealth and a large family. Maybe during this period, he was somehow spiritually diminished. And if he's diminished, he did not meet the standard of Akol Kol Yaakov. And as a result of that, he's not worthy of that protection. So he's concerned he may be killed for that reason. But what's Vayetzelo? What is, and he was pained. So Rashi himself says, Vayiro Shema Yehoreg. He was concerned he may be killed. Vayetzelo, and he was pained. Im Yarog Hu Asacherim. He was concerned he may kill others, as we spoke about. Because what is killing? Killing is a diminishment of your spirituality. At this point, number one, Binyamin hasn't yet been born at this point. So that means if he would be in a diminished state, that means the 12th son that will be born to him is going to be at a compromised level. In addition, Yaakov himself, although he passed away at 147 years old, he has quite a bit to go in terms of raising his family and influencing them to be able to be that at that special level. So the more advanced he is, the greater level of influence and protection he would have over his family. Because we find that even in Egypt, which was the location of the most extreme level of impurity, the impurity of Egypt did not affect his family until he passed away. So we see that Yaakov himself was crucial and essential to establish the Golus of Egypt, that it should have the least effect on the potential of Klal Yisrael. So Tvayetzelo, if he would have to kill, he was paying for that. That's the Ma'od. Vayira Yaakov Yetzim, that's the Ma'od. Vayira Yaakov Ma'od. If he would be killed, he would not be there. That's Vayira. If he's killed, there wouldn't be a Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael are 12. He has to have 12 sons. When Yosef, he believed Yosef had died, was mauled and killed by a beast, he was in mourning for 22 years. Why? Because he had a Kabbalah, he had a tradition that if any one of his children died during his lifetime, he's going to get him. He's not going to have a share in the world to come. Because why? Because the Klal Yisrael has to be 12 at the time of Kabbalah Satorah. They have to be 12 sons. If one of the sons should die, that means he only had 11 children. That means he did not meet his objective, he failed. And therefore, he himself is going to get him. So at this point, if Binyamin was not yet born and he'd be killed, that means he did not meet the objective of what? Of establishing a Klal Yisrael. So the fear is not that he'll be killed, that he won't be alive. The fear was if he's killed, he will not meet the objective of what he was meant to be, which is the father of the Klal Yisrael. It's like Yosef, believing that Yosef was no longer alive at this point. That's Vayira Ma'od. He was overwhelmingly frightened. He was terrified. And even if he's not killed by Yetzalo, but he was pained even if he should kill, because there he'd be minimized. And if he'd minimized, although there'd be a Klal Yisrael, the Klal Yisrael will not be on that level to have that spiritual capacity that they would have had if he wouldn't have killed. So we're talking about two levels. The first is Vayira Ma'od. He was very frightened. He was terrified. He's killed. That means it's like Yosef disappearing, believing he died. He's going to get him because it's due to his own failing. That's why he will be killed, because the Kol Yaakov is not at the level that it should be. In addition, even if he should kill, he's pained because he'll be minimized. Therefore, he will not achieve the level of capacity for the Klal Yisrael if he should be minimized. This is the two issues what he was concerned about. So now over here, there's an interesting midrash. The midrash tells us, Vayira Yaakov Ma'od Vayetzalo. Lama Shnei Pomim. Why isn't it enough to say he was very frightened? Vayira Shelo Yarok. Rashi citing the midrash. He was concerned that he shouldn't be killed. He shouldn't kill. The midrash says the other way. Shelo Yarok. Vayetzalo Shelo Yehoreg. So Yaakov Gibor. Now this is very interesting. Yaakov was a Gibor. He was phenomenally strong. Teida, what's the proof? Shelasara Godel Rofash. Because we see that when he encountered to battle with the angel of Esau, the word he smashed him. He turned him into dirt. That was the power of Yaakov. So we see how powerful he was. Shnema vayosar el malach vayuchal. He lorded over the angel and he succeeded. Bochav ischanlo. It's supposed to be Hosea. And the angel cried and he beseeched him to be released. Shenemar hatzlei nomi ochi. Even though he had victory over the angel, this is post the angel, as we'll see in a moment. He was concerned. Hatzlei nomi arochi. He says, save me from the hand of my brother. Where do we see Yaakov's enormous strength? Maksibo, Vayikach Even, Yaakov Even, Yerimeh Matzebu. He had, in last week's parsha at the end, he entered into a covenant with Lavan and says, he took the stone and he lifted it up, he raised it as a monument. This was the covenant between Lavan and Yaakov. This is the Galid. This is the pile of stone, which is the testament of the what? Of the covenant, the Kamishura, the stone that Yaakov picked up. How large was the stone? Omer Rabbi Yochanan, Shiura Kishina Shel Tveria. He says its dimension was the Shina. It was like the mountain that was protruding in Tveria. That's how large the stone was. You hear this? Meaning he tore a piece of the mountain out the protrusion of the mountain. He lifted up that, which was the equivalent of lifting a mountain, and that was the monument to the testament for this comment. Listen, Hischel Lavan Omer Yaakov. When Lavan saw this, Lavan originally had believed he'd be able to kill Yaakov when he pursued him. Yaakov never displayed his power, his strength, physical strength. He said, the God of your father yesterday came to me, and he said, be careful, don't start up with Yaakov. Yesh le'el yodi, and Lavan says to Yaakov, I have the ability to kill you. This is before Yaakov displayed his enormous strength. Amal Yaakov, Yaakov says to Lavan, Ilule shama l'cho ha'shamer, yesh le'el yodcho shtargeni. He says, you think you have the ability to kill me? Bo atov chol. Come with all your entourage. He was pursued with a whole group of people. It wasn't just Lavan. He says, you could come with all your people. Im yesh be'em koach. He says, if you think you could kill me, is gosheshu im even azuv. Let's see you lift the stone. You people, let's see. The stone I just lifted, let's see if you can lift that stone. And he lifted it to be the monument. It's like a person pulling a cork off a bottle. That's where Yaakov, with ease, lifted the stone. So at that moment, Lavan realized that even if Hashem wouldn't have intervened, here he's boasting, I could have killed you. The reason why I'm not is because God says, leave off. I shouldn't engage with you, not for good or for bad. So Yaakov says, let's see you lift the stone. He says, all you people together, lift it. They couldn't, and he lifted it. Then Lavan understood that Yaakov wasn't fearful. See, originally we had said, we find that when Yaakov left, he wasn't concerned. He knew Lavan would pursue him. He wasn't concerned. Why? Because Lavan's evil, if Hashem says return, there's no worry. Even if Yaakov failed on the Kol Yaakov, the counterbalance of Yaakov was not Lavan. So Lavan is not the issue. Hashem will allow him to survive Lavan. Or as we see now, the reason we wasn't concerned, because he could kill Lavan, he could kill Lavan and all his men with him. However, Esav, it's a whole different issue. He has to contend with the issue of what? Of the counterbalance. If he should fail as the Yaakov, the Kol Yaakov, then it's Yadayim with the Esav. Therefore, that's why he was concerned here. Maybe he became soiled with sin, and as a result of that, he's not worthy of that divine protection, and Esav will be able to compromise him and kill him. That's the understanding. Then it continues. Yaakov's children were also enormously powerful. He says to his children, my brothers, gather the stones. So the same stone that Yaakov was able to lift, his children were able to lift. Were they his brothers? So what do you mean? They were his peers. When he meant Echov, he was his peers. They were strong as he was. Okay? If you look in the Medrash, when Yosef, the viceroy of Egypt, took Binyamin captive, Yehuda engaged in a dialogue with him. And Yehuda alluded to the fact that if he doesn't release Binyamin, and that will cause his father tremendous pain, he personally will destroy Egypt. Yehuda had the ability to destroy Egypt at that moment. I mean, Yehuda is what is the equivalent of the lion. And it's, if you read the Midrash, Yehuda screamed. He gave such a roar that literally the walls of Egypt shook. That was Yehuda. And Yehuda is not his father. But here the Torah is alluding to the fact it was Echov, just as Yaakov was able to lift this stone, had this enormous strength, Yehuda had similar strength. So if you take a look over there in the Medrash, Menashe and Ephraim were the children of Yosef. So when Yehuda, at that time, before, when they originally had taken Binyamin, one of the brothers tried to bolt. So Menashe grabbed him and hit him on the back of his neck. And he said to his brothers, he says, this clap on my back, on my neck, it seems to be this has a semblance of the power of our family. He didn't know yet that Menashe that this was the son of Yosef. It was extraordinary power. That's what it was. I mean, you have a situation, there's no question. When we speak about Yaakov was not this, if you read about how the dimension of Shimshon, his shoulders were literally tremendous. I mean, we're talking about, not to be described, his physical physique. Yaakov's physical physique was not like Shimshon HaGibor. It was not like Samson, not at all. But factually, contained in that person, he could move mountains. Because the power he had behind him was the equivalent of what? Was supernatural strength. Yaakov had supernatural strength because of who he was. So he was able to what? To tackle the physical. Regardless of what the dimension of physical was, again, Yaakov represents the infinite. The physical is finite. The infinite moves finite. And his children were an expression of his being infinite because he's connected to the spiritual. So that's where it emanated from. It's not, he was naturally born strong. It's because of what he represented. And that's why Avraham was able to go to war against the 4 kings and have victory, whatever it was. Because the level of their capacity was not contained within their limitation. They were beyond their capacity.